Hey, I'm Jim Barry, and this is Miami Life, the show that takes on the hot topics and talks to the people who make South Florida so unique. And one such topic these days is the war in Gaza. Pro-Palestinian protests have sprouted up at college campuses across the country. Some universities now vying to quash them, while demonstrators say they will dig in. With South Florida having such a large Jewish community, the ongoing conflict there is top of mind for so many here. Meantime, the pressure builds in the Middle East for a new ceasefire. Here's Melba Rodriguez with more.
College campuses across the United States are seeing heated protests over the war in Gaza. At Columbia University in New York City, pro-Palestinian student protesters defied orders to disperse and took over a school building. They want the school to divest from companies that build weapons used by Israel. Columbia says it will not do so. In Texas, the state police arrested students on the Austin campus of the University of Texas. Similar scenes of unrest played out at universities across the country. The protests reflect growing discontent with how Israel has responded since the October 7th attacks. The U.S. is trying to spur ceasefire negotiations and get more humanitarian aid into Gaza. More than 1 million civilians now are crammed into the city of Rafah, and basic necessities like food and water are in short supply. But Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's determined to launch an offensive into Rafah to go after Hamas, even as Israelis take to the streets to urge their government to cut a deal to bring the 133 hostages back home.
My heart breaks for us, for the hostages and their families, and also for Gaza.
And there is growing concern about anti-Semitism popping up in those on-campus protests. So for our latest 20, 40, 60 conversation, we gathered 3 people with close ties to Israel to hear their perspective on what the last 7 months have been like for them and the Israeli people. We see what's going on these college campuses all across the country. I do think it's important to point out that there are a number of Jewish students who are on the side of the pro-Palestinian demonstrators who want to see peace in the region. Many people don't understand that. Explain that.
The social media that is put out makes it seem like a lot more of the Jewish students are pro-Palestinian, but I like to believe that most Jewish students are pro-Israel and they're on the side that is supporting Israel's actions and what's happening now and Israel's right to exist and Zionism. However, I think there comes a point right now in this generation where the education is lost, and I think a lot of these Jewish students that you're referring to, they are turning with the side of this, I think, like that woke culture, and it's not necessarily what is the truth. I think you ask any of them 1, 2, 3 minutes into talking to them, I don't know if they really believe what they are standing there and saying.
In the 7 months since the war began, public support in the United States has turned against Israel. Rabbi Jeremy Barris of Temple Beth Am in Pinecrest says Israel is focused on the mission of fighting Hamas and not the messaging. I think a lot of people now feel that Israel is losing the propaganda war here. 1,200 people killed when Hamas attacked on October 7th, more than 30,000 dead in Gaza, and people are looking at that and say, whoa, that is way out of whack.
You will always lose a propaganda war because we don't deal in propaganda. We're dealing in the truth. So, yes, unfortunately, there have been a lot of civilian deaths, and Jewish people know more about civilian deaths than anybody. We know more about genocide than anybody from our history. We've been chasing it for 2,000 years. It's painful to see civilian casualties, but this is not a war that Israel wanted. In Israel, when Israel goes to war, they don't have a professional army that they send. They send their own sons. They send their own daughters.
But it's disputing that Israel didn't ask for this.
Right.
I think the question is whether or not Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been too heavy-handed in his response. Could he have been more surgical? Moshe, what do you think?
No nation is perfect. I think, certainly probably Israel could have done it better, but this is the throes of war, and there are very complex issues. No one is celebrating the deaths in Gaza. Unfortunately, it's a two-way street. There was always very complicated tension in those areas, and now, when you break the dam, you can't complain about the flood that comes with it. And certainly Hamas has had the opportunity to say, let's stop.
Julia Pratt is a Jewish activist and influencer who works to get her fellow 20-somethings engaged in Judaism. She says the primary focus should be on securing the release of the estimated 133 hostages that Hamas still holds in Gaza. What's your view of the United States' role in this, and should it be more forceful in urging Israel to tap the brakes a little bit, allowing more humanitarian aid in, and maybe pushing harder for a ceasefire?
I feel lucky that the United States has done what they've done, but they definitely need to be pushing harder for the hostages to be released. There are still United States citizens that are in Gaza, so it's very important that we advocate for them. Until every hostage is home and until every person in this region has a chance at peace and prosperity, I think there needs to be more to be done.
So, Rabbi, how do you negotiate with terrorists? Some say you shouldn't.
Negotiating with terrorists is not usually something that works out very well. Every time Israel's tried to give back land or made a peace deal, it's always, with the Palestinians, it's usually come back to haunt them. And as you've seen, Israel gave back all of the Gaza Strip, and Hamas took it by force and turned it into a terrorist base. So, look, there are negotiations going on right now. We're all praying for that they'll be successful. But the only way that Hamas is going to make any deal is when they have no other choice and they have nowhere else to go. And as long as people are giving them other choices, then they can continue to hold the hostages and continue to make Israelis' lives miserable. And they're a tremendous obstacle for peace. And if you can't get rid of Hamas completely, and if you would pull out now and make a deal, okay, so you'll have a deal and you'll have peace for a few more years, but they'll rebound and they'll come back and do October 7th again. It's not my belief they'll do that. They've promised that they will do that.
Moj Kagan with the Greater Miami Jewish Federation does not believe you can eradicate a terrorist group like Hamas. She says compromise is the only way to end the bloodshed in Gaza. So, Moj, what do you say to the Palestinian people there who are caught in the middle, if you will, between their quote-unquote radical leadership and their daily lives?
I pray for them. I pray for strength. I hope that they can exert some kind of demand or pressure on their own leaders to stop this violence, this war. I'm not happy about any of it, but I have a different approach than the rabbi. I don't think you can eradicate terror completely. I don't think there is no annihilation or eradication in full force. We didn't get rid of Al-Qaeda, ISIS. They're all still around. Terror cells, unfortunately, tend to duplicate and survive. So I think ultimately, with world pressure and persistence, parties will have to come to the table and work it out. As
you mentioned, all of you have been to that part of the world since October 7th. And I'm wondering if the view of the Jewish people who were living there daily with the greater threat of the bombs flying overhead and raining down on them have a different view than Jews, for example, living here in the United States. Rabbi, what do you think?
The debate is getting back the hostages and what you would have to give up to get the hostages back, and that's a debate, and it's good arguments on both sides.
And what do you think about that?
I think that it's time for peace. I think right now we're looking not just for originally we were talking about a complete victory. What did a complete victory look like after October 7th? And now we're talking about what would be a victory that's good enough.
There's going to have to be the creation of another state with the proviso that Israel's existence is accepted and honored. Everyone working toward tolerance. They don't have to be best friends, but we all need to coexist together in this world.
I want to thank all of our guests for joining us. We know this is a complex topic that matters deeply to many here in South Florida, and we'd like to hear your thoughts. Please send them to cbsmiami@cbs.com. When Miami Life returns, we shift gears and head to the supermarket and those stubbornly high prices for food. We gave 3 families $100 apiece to see how far they could stretch that cash. We'll talk about the results. Also, how one Broward community is taking a new approach to fighting crime. Welcome back. Well, everything but the sunshine is expensive here in South Florida, especially our groceries. The U.S. Census reports we have the highest grocery bills in the country, with people spending more than $327 on average every week. CBS Miami's Tanya Francois went shopping with 3 local families and gave them each $100. $100. The goal, to see just how far that money could go.
3 separate families, 3 separate stores. One mission, to see if they can get everything they need spending just $100. Melissa is a mom of 5 with 3 kids at home in Hialeah. Nikki lives in South Broward with her 9-year-old son. Juan and Maria live in West Kendall. They live with her mom and son. Before we go shopping, some background on our families and their habits.
On average, I can spend, if I'm really grocery shopping, I can spend $200 plus for 2 weeks.
I do multiple grocery stores now to get the things that we need, whereas I would always go to one store.
Yes, I use chicken more because it's more cheaper than the meat.
Chicken and fish is cheaper than the red meat.
All 3 can pinpoint the moment they notice the steepest increase in grocery costs.
Probably after COVID.
Especially since COVID, things have gone way up.
Due to COVID and things of that nature, everything has gone up.
And they are right. Food prices rose 25% according to the Consumer Price Index from 2019 to 2023. Let's go shopping.
Okay.
Here's what happened when we hit the stores. The families all bought similar items, some fresh vegetables, snacks for kids, meats here and there, and enough food to cover dinner. All 3 tell us groceries are the bulk of their monthly bills, with each taking multiple trips a week.
After mortgage, I think it's groceries because of electric bills is one flat month, but in groceries is every week you spend, give it a take, 100 something. You multiply by 4, it gave you more than $450 a month.
I go twice a week.
You go twice a week.
Right now I'm going into the BOGO items, and this is how I normally shop to save money. So I purchase a lot of buy one, get one free items.
I've come a long way. I used to be homeless when I was around 21 years old.
Melissa, now a supervisor with a full-time job, has 2 daughters away in college. She says tough times taught her how to stretch a dollar.
I'll go through the list, or there's a lady on social media that give you different scenarios on how far you can stretch your money using the coupons.
Nikki does what a lot of us do.
I take several trips because it's just he and I right now. So I try not to buy too many items because they'll spoil or they'll go bad.
Still, her monthly groceries are a significant part of her monthly budget.
Roughly in a month's time, I would say about $300 between he and I. Yes.
That's not a lot.
It's a lot more than what I'm used to. Like a while back, it wouldn't even be $300 because, you know, the price of things have gone up.
So here's how each of them did. Nikki went over the $100 spending limit the least, going over by just $10. Melissa spent $112 but saved almost $70 couponing. And Juan and Maria, they spent the most at $128.
All right, joining us now for a deep dive on this topic is the lady who put that story together, CBS News Miami's Tanya Francois. Tanya, what did your shoppers buy with that $100?
So most of the families bought a lot of dinner items, dinner-ish. A lot of bell peppers, you know, those staple ingredients, some pasta, some rices, meats, especially meats. You know, seafood, ground beef, bacon, stuff for the kids to kind of hold them over, lunch meat. There was some cereal, just general, you know, food items that we would eat.
Kind of scary to see that $100 doesn't go very far. Everybody went over, save for your one shopper who had all the coupons.
Right, and you know, that was sort of like the premise for me. You know, we go to the store and you think, man, I can't walk out of the store without spending $100.
Yeah.
Well, I really wanted to see if that's actually true, or is it just in our heads? And all 3 went over. I was a little surprised by that, actually.
Yeah, frankly, I'm not, because food prices are really through the roof. And I hear this COVID being one of the lingering excuses. COVID's a couple of years in the rearview mirror now. Is that really still a reasonable explanation for why food prices continue to be so high?
You know, if we look at the GDP, you know, that's what they're saying. They're still blaming it on, or at least the excuse was, right, a production and getting it over and bringing it over. But apparently this is still, you know, part of our economy now. It's our new normal to have to spend a little bit more for some of the things that we need.
Wow. So how do people make compromises here?
So, you know, one of the families, one of the women, she said she does, you know, meat. She goes to her butcher and she gets a meat plan. That was very interesting to me. And I actually Googled it and discovered this does exist, where you can get a variety of meats, you know, for $80, depending on, you know, what you want. And they just kind of stretch that and they make that work. And then there's a lot of dinners become lunch the next day in order to stretch, you know, that meal. And then, you know, especially the coupon hacks. You know, I know sometimes, you know, your favorite store is like, okay, if I've seen them, but I've never really done them because it's just my mind isn't built that way. But a lot of people do have to rely on these, you know, promotional items. If you spend 5 of this and you get a coupon for $20 and then you apply that 20 towards this, that does work for these families.
It's not just a hobby. In many cases, it's a necessity.
Yeah, in order, you have five mouths to feed, as one of our moms did. This is what she has to do. She relies on those buy one, get ones.
Any relief in sight? No.
No.
Wow.
No. We keep on living and we keep on eating.
Yeah, exactly. We got to eat, and when you go to the store, you got to pay the price, because what choice do you have? Wow. But Tanya, thank you for pointing it out, and it's interesting to see that smart shopping does make a difference, even in the grocery store, and you could even argue, especially at the grocery store.
Especially, yeah. Thank you.
Tanya, thank you so much. All right, still to come on Miami Live, can kindness help reduce crime? One community is trying it out. We'll explain when we come back. Welcome back. The city of Lauderhill is taking a new approach to fighting crime, using kindness to bring the community together. CBS Miami's Joan Murray explains.
Peace begins in the heart and grows with understanding.
It's a groundbreaking campaign underway in Lauderhill promoting peace to curb violence.
You have to meet them where they are. You have to connect with them.
Mancito Telford is reaching the youngest residents. He was once a gang member who did time in prison twice. Now he puts kids on the right track.
To let them know, like, they don't want to go to prison. They don't want to go to jail. They don't want to have their friends deceased. Like, I have a lot of my friends they're dead.
Everyone from residents to business owners are being asked to take a pledge to turn down the temperature in tense situations and live the golden rule: treat others the way you want to be treated.
We know that when a community feels safe, they're more inclined to go and spend money in the community. So I believe that it's in the best interest of all of us to work collaboratively to make sure that it's a safer community for everyone.
Part of the puzzle is cleaning up crime. The deputy chief said they are on the right track, although homicides spiked the first quarter. There were 7 murders.
We have a detective assigned to the real-time crime center by the Broward Sheriff's Office, a very successful program, I think almost every agency in Broward. So obtaining real-time information is a big benefit to why I believe we're trending in the right direction.
Mancito Telford is spreading the message of peace through song and intervention.
You see, I am a walking miracle, you know what I mean? Like, it can happen. So if someone who is far off, far removed as me can change, I know you can.
And Mancito Telford tells me what he's going to be doing next, actually going into juvenile detention centers, trying to reach these youth before they go down the wrong path. In Lauderhill, Joan Murray, CBS News, Miami.
Thank you, Joan. Mancito, I love what you're doing. We'll be right back. All right, come on back and join us again next week for Miami Life. We got a special story for you about Duffy's Tavern, a local institution in Miami that has remained stubbornly familiar from the menu to the decor. When you walk into Duffy's, you know what you're going to get, and for generations of customers, it has been their go-to place to kick back. What has it been about this place that's kept you coming back?
everybody, and it's people. It's a place to hang out. You have a bad day, you go, you know what? I had a bad day. Where am I going to go? I'm going to go to Duffy's.
Nice to have a spot like that, but change is coming to Duffy's. We'll tell you what that change is going to be, talk to the owner, and talk to more of its regulars next week on Miami Life. That does it for this week's episode. Remember, you'll see us every Thursday, 6:30 on the stream and 10 p.m. on TV 33. I'm Jim Barry. See you soon.